Philip John Schuyler was a general in the American Revolution and a United States Senator from New York. He is usually known as Philip Schuyler, while his son is usually known as Philip J. Schuyler. Early life. Philip Schuyler was born in Albany, New York, on November 20, 1733, to John Schuyler, Jr., third generation of the Dutch family in America, and Cornelia van Cortlandt. Prior to his father's death on the eve of his 8th birthday, Schuyler attended the public school at Albany. Afterward, he was educated by tutors at the Van Cortlandt family estate at New Rochelle. He joined the British forces in 1755 during the French and Indian War, raised a company, and was commissioned as its captain by his cousin, Lt. Governor James Delancey. Later in that war, he served as a quartermaster, purchasing supplies and organizing equipment. From 1761 to 1762, Schuyler made a trip to England to settle accounts from his work as quartermaster. During this time his home in Albany, later called Schuyler Mansion, was built. His country estate at Saratoga was also begun. After the war he also expanded the Saratoga estate to tens of thousands of acres, adding slaves, tenant farmers, a store, mills for flour, flax, and lumber. His flax mill for the making of linen was the first one in America. He built several schooners on the Hudson River, and named the first Saratoga. Schuyler began his political career as a member of the New York Assembly in 1768. He served in that body until 1775. During this time his views came to be more opposed to the colonial government. He was particularly outspoken in matters of trade and currency. He was also made a colonel in the militia for his support of Governor Henry Moore. Revolutionary War. Schuyler was elected to the Continental Congress in 1775, and served until he was appointed a Major General of the Continental Army in June. General Schuyler took command of the Northern Department, and planned the invasion of Canada. His poor health required him to place Richard Montgomery in command of the invasion. As department commanding general, he was active in preparing a defense against the Saratoga campaign, part of the three-pronged attack strategy of the British to cut the American colonies in two by invading and occupying New York State in 1777. In the summer of that year General John Burgoyne marched his British army south from Quebec over the valleys of Lakes Champlain and George. On the way he invested the small colonial garrison occupying Fort Ticonderoga at the nexus of the two lakes. When General Street Battle of Saratoga, the British offensive was eventually stopped by Continental Army then under the command of Gates and Benedict Arnold in the Battle of Saratoga. That victory, the first wholesale defeat of a large British force, marked a turning point in the Revolution, for it convinced France to enter the war on the American side. When Schuyler demanded a court-martial to answer Gates' charges, he was vindicated but resigned from the army on April 19, 1779. He then served in two more sessions of the Continental Congress in 1779 and 1780. Schuyler was an original member of the New York Society of the Cincinnati. Later career. He was a member of the New York State Senate from 1780 to 1784, and at the same time New York State Surveyor General from 1781 to 1784. Afterwards he returned to the State Senate from 1786 to 1790, where he actively supported the adoption of the United States Constitution. In 1789, he was elected a U.S. Senator from New York to the First United States Congress, serving from July 27, 1789, to March 4, 1791. After losing his bid for re-election in 1791, he returned to the state Senate from 1792 to 1797. In 1797, he was elected again to the U.S. Senate and served in the Fifth United States Congress from March 4, 1797 until his resignation because of ill health on January 3, 1798. Family and relatives. In September 1755, he married Catherine Van Rensselaer at Albany. Philip and Catherine had 15 children together. Among them are Angelica, who married British MP John Barker Church. Elizabeth married Alexander Hamilton, who later was the first United States Secretary of the Treasury. Elizabeth co-founded the first orphanage in New York City. Philip Jeremiah Schuyler, who served in the United States House of Representatives. Margarita, who married Stephen Van Rensselaer III, patroon of the name. Additionally, Schuyler is related to Peter Schuyler, who commanded the Jersey Blues. Hester Schuyler, who married William Colfax, a veteran of George Washington's Lifeguards and later a general in the New Jersey militia who also commanded the Jersey Blues. Aunt Schuyler de Peyster, a noted Loyalist. Mary Johnson, Loyalist and wife of Colonel Sir John Johnson. Dr. John Cochrane, Director General of the Military Hospitals of the Continental Army. Schuyler's country home had been destroyed by General John Burgoyne's forces in September 1777. Later that year, he began rebuilding on the same site, now located in southern Schuylerville, New York. This later home is maintained by the National Park Service as part of the Saratoga National Historical Park, and is open to the public. Schuyler died at the Schuyler Mansion in Albany on November 18, 1804, and is buried in the Albany Rural Cemetery at Menands, New York. Legacy: Schuyler County, Illinois, Schuyler County, Missouri and Schuyler County, New York were named in his honor. Fort Schuyler, constructed 1833–56, at the tip of Throgs Neck was named in his honor. The fort, built to defend the passage between the East River and Long Island Sound from sea invasion, now houses the Maritime Industry Museum and the State University of New York Maritime College. The Philip Schuyler Achievement Academy in Albany, New York is named in his and his son's honor. A statue of Schuyler, created by sculptor J. Massey Rind in 1925, stands on the grounds of Albany's City Hall.